Synergy is something that is important to every EDH deck, and it's something I look to optimize. In my opinion, it makes a deck more fun and less like a pile of good stuff. On my endless hunt for the perfectly synergistic deck, I came upon what is now my favorite commander from my favorite set of all time. Samwise Gamgee is a 2/2 Hoffling Peasant for 1 green and 1 white, which reads, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a food token, and sacrifice 3 foods, return target historic card from your graveyard to your hand. This powerful little 2-drop will allow for some incredible enters the battlefield, creature, and food token synergy while having recursion stapled onto him. This deck tech will push synergy to its limit, with a list that contains exactly 40 creatures. Utilizing Sam's first ability, this deck looks to take advantage of using value creatures that provide the removal, ramp, draw, and protection packages of the deck to cash in on the already provided value of those creatures with the free food token. With that being said, in this deck, I will show you the overall goal of the deck, the cards it's comprised of, and how to play the deck with a general game plan. Now let's take a look at exactly what I run in each of those categories. Beginning with ramp. Inspiring Statuary, Nuka-Cola Vending Machine, Knight of the Sweet's Revenge, and Smothering Tithe are the only 4 forms of ramp I run that aren't creatures. This is a very high power list that looks to get ahead fast and close out the game with the use of lots of tokens. Thus, the inclusion of Smothering Tithe in this deck. While hoping to break parity by providing ramp or slowing your opponents down, the token generation is really what makes this card worth running in the deck. Though we mainly use food tokens, general token synergy is embedded within the deck, and treasures are never bad to have lying around. Speaking of treasure tokens, Nuka-Cola Vending Machine allows us to cash in on any sacrificed food tokens with tapped treasure tokens, which will help us accelerate into the late game as we sack the food tokens to various effects, such as recursion on Sam. A fun tech you can look to do with Nuka-Cola Vending Machine and Sam in play is during the end step of your opponent's turn, before your turn, sacrificing the 3 foods to grab a card out of the yard with Sam's ability, perhaps one like Boromir. Then generating 3 treasure tokens, which will enter tapped, but untap practically right away on your untap step, and then use those treasure tokens to pay for Boromir. Alongside those 2, cards like Inspiring Statuary and Knight of the Sweet's Revenge allow us to storm off by putting creatures into play, then tapping the food generated off of playing those creatures to play even more creatures. Knight of the Sweet's Revenge can even act as a finisher in the deck in the late game, providing a pseudo runover effect. The rest of the ramp package is quite simple, with cards like Delighted Hoffling, Gilded Goose, and Prize Pig as especially strong mana dorks in the deck list, and Delighted Hoffling provides protection for Sam coming down on turn 2. And like I said, this deck list is often played in high power, and going last in turn order on turn 2 leaves the door open for counter spells to be online for your opponents pretty easily, and trust me, countering Sam on turn 2 is not a bad idea. Next in the ramp suite, we have Wood Elves and Deep Gnome Terramancer. Both of these are going to provide more stable ramp in the form of lands. Wood Elves is a classic, and Deep Gnome Terramancer is one of my favorite cards of all time. This ramp suite is a perfect example of having a preference for synergy over generically good cards. Obviously in green, you have access to ramp spells such as Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, and Farseek. But with Sam, why not use the same ability, but on creatures to profit a food off of ramping? Rounding off the ramp section, we have one of the MVPs of the deck, Jaheira of the Forest. She is a slam dunk in this deck, just like Knight of the Sweet's Revenge, but for 1 less mana. When she comes down, she really kicks this deck into high gear, and you can pretty quickly begin to storm off. Obviously, she's an instant slot in for any deck that creates a lot of tokens. This is a great card, and probably the best ramp card in the deck. However, none of that amazing ramp matters if we don't have cards in hand to play. That is where the creature-based draw package comes into play. Cards like Enduring Innocence, Welcoming Vampire, Beast Whisperer, and Benny Brax will be drawing us a card every turn for doing what the deck already wants to do. To speak to the synergy of the deck again, let's compare Benny Brax to Idol of Oblivion, which is a staple draw engine in most token decks. While it is a great option for draw, Benny Brax does the exact same thing and can cost even less thanks to his Convoke. the turn he comes down, he's going to draw us a card thanks to Sam creating a food token because Benny Brax is a creature, unlike Idol of Oblivion. Additionally, Benny Brax text reads at the beginning of each end step, as opposed to Idol of Oblivion, which requires you to tap it, almost guaranteeing only one activation each turn cycle. While it won't matter much, it's not completely irrelevant, with cards like Smothering Tithe, Nuka-Cola Vending Machine, and others that can create tokens on your opponent's turn or at instant speed. Additionally, with Convoke stapled on, he's almost always going to be coming down for less than 3 mana, if not for free, with the amount of creatures we have on the board. This deck is also packing Esper Sentinel, Trouble in Pairs, and the One Ring, which will act as very powerful draw engines, in addition to completing other core tasks such as protection or slowing down our opponents. Last but not least, Beast Whisperer is the strongest draw engine in the deck, allowing us to chain casting our creatures into even more draw, into even more cast, which is made even easier by the high creature count in the deck. Dude, this card is just so amazing. I love it. It's just an auto include in this deck. Now that we've drawn a ton of cards, it's important that we have a heavy protection suite. This deck is packing around 14 cards that offer some sort of protection. Often this comes in the form of mass board protection, with cards like Flare of Fortitude, Clever Concealment, Flawless Maneuver, Heroic Intervention, and of course, Teferi's Protection. This can also come stapled onto creatures with cards like Boromir, Guardian of Faith, and Selfless Spirit, which all have the added benefit of generating us a food token when Sam's on the board. Ghostly Prison and Comeuppance act as great pillow fort cards and act as protection against huge board states swinging out, and holding up Comeuppance against a Craterhoof is one of the best feelings ever, and it can even act as a pseudo board wipe. Genuinely, this is one of my favorite cards. People should play this card more. Last, with cards like Tamio's Safekeeping, Shijiri's Shelter, and Galadriel's Dismissal, we can protect our most important piece on the board, with each of these providing added flexibility. Galadriel's Dismissal can have the kicker paid for a full board protection spell. Shijiri's Shelter can be flipped and played as a land in case we're running low on lands, and Tamio's Safekeeping offers life gain, which can help to enable other cards in this deck. As previously mentioned, this Sam deck sits comfortably in bracket 4, and to do that, you're going to need lots of protection. The last basic category of cards I want to highlight before we get into the more fun, synergistic cards of the deck is removal. Though there is room for synergy here, with cards like Hobbit Sting and Battle of Bywater, most of the removal spells are generically good Selesnya cards. Swords to Plowshares, Generous Gift, Beast Within, Unexplained Absence, and Farewell are all in this list to provide low-cost, efficient removal, or are simply best in slot for their category, such as Farewell for a board wipe. Additionally, Aura Shards will provide powerful, repeatable removal with the amount of creatures we will be putting into play each turn. And of course, we're running cards like Haywire Might, Cankerbloom, and Dauntless Dismantler to profit a food token while removing our opponent's key pieces. This deck has 2 categories of cards outside of the base removal, draw, protection, and ramp packages. Those 2 categories are food generation and food payoffs. Cards like Gilded Goose, Astrid Peth, Meridoc Brandybuck, Sam Loyal Attendant, Tireless Provisioner, Apothecary White, and Sierra provide repeatable food token generation, which helps to enable the other cards in this deck. Additionally, Rosy Cotton and Treebeard both come down with 1 or 2 extra food tokens on top of the token already being generated by Sam, and each of these provides some sort of value for the deck. Rosy buffs up our board as we generate more food tokens, and Treebeard Gracious Host acts as almost a hidden win con in this deck. Sure, it may come in with 0 power and seem unassuming, but if you untap with it and have enough mana, you can sacrifice a ton of food tokens to gain life, putting that many +1/+1 counters on a Treebeard, then swinging in with the Giant Trampler. Not to mention Ward 2 is practically hexproof. Roaming Throne. Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, and Peregrine Took are by far the strongest effects in this section for food generation. Nearly all of our food will be doubled, and honestly, Peregrine Took does an incredible Academy Manufacturer impression in this deck. The one downside of Sam's ability is that he doesn't see token creatures, but with Peregrine Took in play, you are essentially having Sam's ability trigger for token creatures as well. Do not sleep on this card in the deck, as it is insanely powerful. I've seen it get ignored completely, which has allowed me to run away with the game multiple times. Now that we've generated a bunch of food, it's time to benefit off of all of this token generation. Hands down, the best card in this deck is Academy Manufacturer. This card turns each SAM trigger from a food token into a food, a clue, and a treasure token, providing ramp and draw with each creature. Not to mention the sheer amount of tokens that will be generated off of this to feed into other token synergies. Also, because Sam's ability is an ETB trigger, Academy Manufacturer will be on the battlefield to see that and replace its own food with a clue, treasure, and food token. If that wasn't enough, Sam's second ability allows him to recur historic cards from the graveyard to hand. This added benefit means that once you have Academy Manufacturer out, the only thing that's stopping him is exile removal. Moving on, there are also cards that will help turn our food tokens into a board state. Farmer Cotton, Kadira, Caller of the Small, Mary, Warden of Isengard, and Apothecary White help convert our board of food tokens into creature tokens, which will help give blockers as we generate more value. Ocelot Pride also goes crazy in this deck, doubling all of our tokens at the beginning of basically every one of our end steps. All That Glitters and Strength of the Harvest are great for buffing up Sam and threatening commander damage, and Sierra, Nuka-Cola's biggest fan, can do the same. Feasting Hobbit and Banquet Guests are two of the main finishers in the deck. Both of these cards get out of hand so quickly, with Feasting Hobbit having Devour Food 3, which can just go insane in this deck. And with one of the best evasion abilities stapled onto him, this is definitely taking out an opponent if you untap with it. Similarly, Banquet Guests has Affinity for Food, which is almost more insane than Devour Food 3. To demonstrate this, one really cool thing you can do with this card and Inspiring Statuary, Jaheira of the Forest, or Knight of the Sweet's Revenge onto the battlefield is to tap to pay all of your food tokens into X, and then X is essentially doubled because of the affinity for food as well. And of course, this card has Trample and built-in protection. This card is going to be putting in work for sure. The last card in the deck that I have yet to mention is Blossoming Bogbeast. This is probably the best finisher in the deck. Oftentimes, a green deck wins by simply slamming Craterhoof and swinging out for lethal. However, I find this to be quite boring, especially when more synergistic cards like Blossoming Bogbeast exist. The best way to play this card because of its lack of haste is on turn 7, holding up 2 or 3 mana for a protection spell like Heroic Intervention, Teferi's Protection, Flare Fortitude, or Clever Concealment, then untapping with 8 mana and sacrificing 4 food to gain 12 life, then swinging in, buffing your board by 14 and giving all of your creatures trample. This will more than likely end the game right there. Overall, this deck does exactly what Sam wants to do. Throw out a ton of little creatures, generate food tokens, and run away with the game as you generate more and more value and as your board state grows. Notably, this deck is not on Sol Ring or Arcane Signet. Neither of these cards help Sam get out faster, and with an average mana cost of 2.5, this deck should be turned on by turn 3 to 4 anyway, without requiring any artifact ramp. I am personally so happy I was able to make a great deck with a commander from my favorite set of all time. A powerful deck with a ton of synergy built into it creates an awesome play pattern, and I am always happy to be playing this deck. Of course, it's always evolving, and I will continue to keep it up to date as new sets come out. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to ask in the comments below. I would also be happy to answer any questions and elaborate further on certain inclusions or exclusions. The deck list will be linked below, along with my mocks field, if you want to check out any other decks that I've built. As always, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!